Are you working on a bag and you really want a long slip pocket in your bag, but it's not in the tutorial for how to do it, and you need to know? Well, today is your day. Hi there, I'm Laura, one of the owners and designers here at Rivet Patterns, and today I'm going to show you how to add a slip pocket to any bag pattern. You can even do it in shapes. You can do it straight across like you can see in both of these slip pockets. Super easy. Let's get it done. We need a measuring device. We need a writing utensil. We need some scissors. You need some pins. We need our outer fabric, and we need a slip pocket fabric. All right, yeah, I have things pre-cut, but we'll talk about what exactly we need to do. Let me show you, first and foremost, let me show you a slip pocket. The first slip pocket I'm going to show you is on the Sonata sling bag and backpack. You can see I've got a slip pocket right here. So what do you notice? You notice that it hits the side seams and it hits the bottom seam as well. It goes the entire length of your bag and up some, right? So it hits these. So you really only have to finish the top, okay? And you could finish it a lot of different ways. You can bind it, you can hem it, whatever. We are going to double this up, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do my normal way. Okay, so here's one slip pocket. Here's another example of a slip pocket. This is the medley bag. I'm going to turn it wrong side out so you can see the lining and how the slip pocket is achieved with something with boxed corners. Okay, this is similar to the medley or to the libretto handbag and tote. We apply this the exact same way. So you could see we have a slip pocket here, but the boxed corners are right here. Now, so you could see that I have a finished edge on my slip pocket because it needed to, the placement of it needed to come above the boxed corners. Otherwise, that pocket goes all the way down underneath and you're losing all your quarters, you're losing all your things underneath, and there's no point in having a pocket that's down here. I hope that makes sense. So there are two different ways to finish it. Just like with the Sonata. So with the Sonata, I only have to finish the top, and then everything else lines up with the raw edges. With the medley or the libretto, it does not meet up with all the raw edges. It meets up with the raw edges of the side seam, but it doesn't on the bottom. So in contrast, I have to finish the top and finish the bottom. So let's grab our outer. And the first thing we want to do is we want to measure it. So we need to know how wide our outer is. In this case, it's about 12 inches, give or take, wide, and then how high it is. And this one is about 10.5 or 11. So we want to match up the side seam. So we need it to at least be, this is 11 3/4 right here. We need it to be 11 3/4 wide. If we want it to be about 5.5 inches high, we will cut it about 6 inches if we're going to finish the top and the bottom for a boxed corner bag. Or you can do 5 3/4 if you're just finishing the top and you're lining up, your raw edges. So you're going to cut your pieces. In our case, it's 12 inches by 6 inches. So 12 inches wide, 6 inches tall. You will determine that based on your outer. So I have already done that, and I need 2 of them. So here's one, here is the other. I'm going to place them right sides together. Now, this is for the method where, like the Sonata or the Andante, where the slip pockets match the sides and the bottom. So I'm just going to sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance across the top. All right, so I've sewn across the top. I'm going to grab my iron. I'm going to open it up, put the pretty side down. And I'm going to press this seam open. This is just personal preference. Okay. And I'm going to fold it wrong sides together and press it again. Okay. And then I will top stitch across here. All right. Once I have top stitched it, I will take my outer, I will line up the bottom and the sides, I will pin or clip it together, and then I will sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance across these 3 sides. So down here, across the bottom, and up, all right? Additionally, I'll decide if I want to divide this pocket into 2 or however you want to do it, and I can sew a seam right there. And then I'm done. If I'm doing something with boxed corners, okay, so let's pretend those are our box corners. I need to know what our seam allowance is for the box corners. And if those are 1/2 inch, I'm going to mark here for you about 1/2 inch. Whatever your seam allowance is. Here it is. Okay. And so that will determine our placement. It'll go above the 1/2 inch. But before we do that, we have to put these right sides together again. And I'm going to stitch. I've stitched across the top. Now I'm going to stitch across the bottom using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Here we are. I've stitched across the top and I'm to stitch across the bottom. Now I'm going to turn it right side out. So we basically got a tube here, and we want to press the seam allowance here. Now that we've sewn that and we have pressed it, we're going to top stitch the top and the bottom. Or you could just top stitch the top and leave the bottom for later. It's up to you. We are top stitched. I just did the top. We don't have to do the bottom. We will take care of the bottom when we sew it onto our outer. Cut off the strays. Okay, grab your outer. And a few minutes ago, we marked our seam allowance. We need to line our slip pocket up with the seam allowance or slightly above it, so that when we're sewing these box corners, that we're not catching the pocket in the seam allowance and making it funky. So you want to come up just a little bit, lining up those side seams, and then we're just going to do some pinning. All right, now we're going to head to our sewing machine. Just like we did before, we're going to sew, starting here at the top, going down the side, this side, and across the bottom, and back up the other side. Making sure to catch this here. This is our top stitch of the bottom here. Like, we're really wanting to secure that. So use about 1/8 to 1/4 inch seam allowance on this bottom. All right, let's do it. And what I didn't mention is I was going to separate these out into 2 pockets. So I just stitched after I did the side and the bottom and the other side. I just stitched back stitching at the top and the bottom. All right, so this means that when we sew our boxed corners, now this isn't terribly precise because I just eyeballed it. Let's just assume these pins are the stitch line. And we turn them right side out. Don't poke yourself. You can see how it sits on top. It does not go into that seam allowance. You have it's like a nice box, okay? So you do have a little bit over here, so that's like great for like pens and stuff to put on those corners, around those sides. But here's what it would look like. And of course your phone will fit in there and everything. So that's that. And that is how you add a slip pocket to any bag pattern.